Guys, welcome back to Precision Rifle Network. Joel here. Today is all about the S2 Delta Magnesium Chassis. Putting together a pretty sweet 6.5 PRC hunting rifle, and this chassis is making this overall rifle weight around 9 pounds, so stick around. Wanted to take a second just to shout out a Coltac product. This is their waxed canvas whoopee bag. It's a rear support bag, but what I really like about it is the lightweight fill, but it's still stable enough to really help stabilize. It's a good barricade bag. It's made as a rear bag, but it makes for a good kind of hunting barricade type bag if you so choose. It's lightweight, and so you can just strap it to a pack or something like that. It doesn't take up a lot of space. You can use code PRN10 to get 10% off of everything they sell over there on their website. Okay, so just to give you a couple of details here at the start. I'm going to be looking down at my computer screen because I've got some notes down here. You're going to be seeing B-roll of the rifle kind of rolled in over the top of me shooting it and of the rifle itself and all that kind of stuff. I'm also going to be glancing over here off of camera, and that is because I've got the rifle set up over here so that I can kind of remember some of the things that I wanted to say about it. With that, let's launch in. First thing about the S2 Delta chassis, the magnesium one, because they have various other models like made out of aluminum and whatnot, they're all Remington 700 platform compatible. So the one thing that I want to be upfront and honest about is that I had some difficulty initially with getting various different actions to drop in and function correctly in this chassis. They say that standard Remington 700, like actually Remington 700 brand chassis and actions and Bergara actions drop in and have zero problems at all. Typically where they see issues is coming from other custom actions, let's say Defiance or Terminus or Impact or any of the others. Some people, not all, some people have had issues with fitment with those other custom actions because they're not exactly like a Bergara or a Remington. And so I called them and I said, hey, I dropped my Terminus action into this thing and I'm having feeding issues. And they wanted to have me send it to them so that they could work through it and figure out, if there were any issues and all that kind of stuff. Like, customer service was phenomenal. They were willing to do whatever it took to get that thing feeding and functioning correctly. Well, I had this project rifle going, the Bergara Premier barreled action. The Bergara is selling barreled actions now, and so they sent me one of their Premier barreled actions with their Cure carbon fiber barrel, and it's chambered in 6.5 PRC, and that was coming, and so I decided just to wait. It took a lot longer than I expected, but I finally got that Bergara action, dropped it into the S2 Delta Magnesium Chassis, and everything functions as it's supposed to, with zero issues. And so just want to give you the honest side of that, is that with at least the Terminus action and also the Aero Solace action that I tried dropping in there, I had a little bit of kind of fitment issues. It dropped in, it bolted in, all that, but I had some feeding issues, which could have probably been tuned out with the magazine adjustment, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get it to work just right. And I didn't want to switch to any of the new mags. I tried AI mags and Accurate mags and Magpul polymer ones, and none of them quite did right. Anyway, all that out of the way, let's get into what I think is kind of one of the most important parts about this chassis, and that is the magnesium material. It's incredibly lightweight. You're looking at about 1.5 pounds for the overall weight of the chassis, which is next to nothing, right? Especially when you're talking about all the features that it has. The lightweight is the main thing, but you've also got your ambidextrous design, and so you can drop a chassis in there, a barreled action, into this chassis that is either right hand or left hand, and everything works just fine there. Again, we said it fits the Remington 700 model actions. Some tweaking may be required, not gunsmithing like, milling anything out or any of that kind of stuff. Like, your action's going to lock in there, it's going to bolt in just fine, but you might have some feeding issues that may need to be figured out, in my experience with it so far. I do like the modularity of it. You know, you got about 7 different M-lock slots running down both sides of that rifle and under the bottom of the chassis as well. So you can add in your various weights if you want on the sides and all that kind of stuff. The rail itself has ARCA milled in to the length of it. And so you can, you know, clip into a tripod backed by the magazine well. You can also, you know, run your bipod up front or at any point during the length of that rail. And so that's pretty nice. It's what we would expect from a chassis these days, having that functionality. So it's there. I do wish that rail went a little further back towards the balance point of the rifle. The rifle, the way it sits for me, is rear heavy. I would have to add weight back in to this rifle in order for it to balance the way that it is supposed to. It's just the design of where the recoil lug got placed in this chassis, and then the material that's out front of that versus what's out rear of that. And the weight out to the rear is more, even with you know, the barreled action thrown in there. If you went with a heavier contour barrel, it probably would balance out a little bit better, but then that defeats the purpose of having the lightweight setup. So that's a little bit of a downside to me, a little bit of a bummer, but all in all, it still works out pretty well, especially if you're clipping into a tripod or just running it on the ground off of a bipod. You're not noticing the balance issue. And it's not a competition gun, so it doesn't need to balance perfectly off of a barricade bag on some barricade, you know. The durability, it is crafted from CNC machined magnesium with Cerakote finish. This one in particular is in the color gunmetal gray. They offer different colors. You know, it's a very strong material, but it's also corrosion resistant and it's lightweight, and that's really the benefit of that. No specialized tools or anything required. You can just drop it in, have the right length of action screws, torque those down, and you're in business, right? It's got kind of a V-type bedding system like a lot of modern chassis do, so it locks in. No bedding required there. And it is pretty cost effective, you know, just the base chassis. Now it's not including the buttstock, but the base chassis is around $300 to $400. And so compared to some of the other chassis on the market, this one is pretty cheap as far as that goes. And especially when you're talking about the lightweight of magnesium, those prices can get pretty high because it's a specialized thing. This allows you to kind of pick and choose any kind of AR-15 style buttstock that'll just thread right into the back of there. You could add a side folder. You could do whatever you wanted back there. AR-15 style grips, and so you could change the grips out to, let's say, an MK Machining vertical grip, a lightweight one. This is not a video about the Bergara N65 PRC, so you're not going to get like how it shot and tiny groups and all that kind of stuff. This really is about the chassis, and I'm giving you information about the chassis itself. So hopefully what the images you've been seeing in the video clips you've been seeing of the rifle is sufficient to give you information about the S2 Delta chassis, and you can make up your own mind. Guys, thanks for watching today. Make sure and hit that subscribe button. Please share the video if you have the opportunity, and stay tuned for more great videos from Precision Rifle Network.